Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's meeting of Cabinet. Welcome also to those members of the public and press who join us via the live stream to YouTube. During the live broadcast, members and officers are asked please to ensure that mobile phones are placed in silent mode and that microphones are switched off when not in use. Now, please note that this meeting is being recorded using Magic Notes, and therefore, before we begin the substantive business of the meeting, may I ask all members present to introduce themselves for the purpose of the recording and so that an accurate transcript can be produced. I will start by confirming that my name is Councillor Bowden, now moving anti-clockwise.
Councillor Jan French.
Councillor Sidney Maffidon.
Councillor Steve Tierney.
Councillor D. Laws.
Samantha Hoy.
Councillor Susan Warwork.
Councillor Steve Count.
Councillor Chris Seaton. Thank you, members. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence, member services.
Thank you. We've had apologies from Councillor Christie.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Christie did say that I could tell Cabinet that after his health scare last week, he has had a diagnosis which is far more positive than he might have feared, and he has not suffered any significant health concern. It was a bit of a false alarm, so he will be back joining us as soon as he possibly can, but today is a bit too early for him. Right. Agenda item 2, the previous minutes, which are to be found on pages 3 to 10 of the agenda pack, and I'm asking it to be agreed that they are a correct record of the Cabinet meeting which took place on the 23rd of February 2026. May I ask any member who does not agree with the minutes to indicate that now? I see no members objecting, so I will take the minutes to be a correct record and will sign them now. Thank you, Carl. Right, move on to agenda item 3, urgent items, and there aren't any. Agenda item 4 is interests, and this is to receive any declarations of interest under the local code of conduct or any interest under the code of conduct on planning matters in respect of any items to be discussed at the meeting. May I ask if anyone has anything to declare? For something which will come up later in the meeting, I will make a declaration that I am a trustee of fact. Councillor Seaton.
Thank you, Chair. I declare the same interest as I am a trustee of fact.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 5 is the Investment Board update and review of the commercial and investment strategy, and this is to be found on pages 11 to 20 of the agenda pack. As members will see, we are meant to have a report back every 2 years, but we are in something of a hiatus at the moment primarily because of local government reform and reorganisation. We have our 2 major projects have been moving ahead. We're still moving through the full planning process, and it will be necessary for the investment board to consider the current position and to make some recommendations back to us in terms of how we should proceed given local government reorganisation is coming forward. And it's not a simple case of just selling what we've got or not selling it, because of course the assets we're talking about, the major assets we're talking about, are contained within Fenland Future Limited as a separate limited company. And what we will require, and we will get this via the investment board and from the section 151 officer for us, is a position paper as to what our alternatives are and what are the best alternatives for us to move forward on. With the assets being held within the limited company, it does create some tax and procedural issues which will need to be thought through thoroughly before decisions are made. So this is very much a holding report at the moment, and we will be getting a position paper from our section 151 officer as soon as it's possible to do so. May I have a seconder, please, for this report? Councillor French, thank you very much indeed. Does anyone have any comments or questions? No comments or questions. Thank you very much indeed. We're being asked on page 12 to note the report and agree that the ongoing review of the current commercial and investment strategy as determined by the Constitution and delegated to the Section 151 officer is still currently deferred. So thank you very much indeed for that. Oh, if we're to agree, then those in favour, please show. And that's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Agenda item 6 is the air quality review and assessment statutory reporting, which is to be found on pages 21 to 32 of your agenda pack. Councillor Imafidon, would you please propose the report?
Thank you, Chair. Reason for the report. In March 2025, Cabinet received a report about air quality in Finland. Cabinet requested further information about its statutory work to review and assess air quality, and in particular, information about the monitoring undertaken by the Council and others. This report provides background information about our duty, what steps are being taken to continually review and assess the quality of air in Finland. It sets out further details about the locations of these monitoring points, which pollutants the Council must monitor for any issues with these results, which are a cause of concern. Summary key points. There is a duty within the Environment Protection Act for the Council to continually review and assess air quality in the area. The Council follows guidance and works with government specialist scientists to ensure this responsibility is completed to its satisfactory standard. There are nationally set standards for each pollutant of concern, and if these standards are breached, the Council must declare the affected area as an air quality management area. Our Council area has 2 such management areas currently declared, one in Wisbech and one in Whittlesea. Maps of these areas are in schedules to the Cabinet report. Therefore, I have advised the Council to review these areas in the coming year. Officers are working to collate the best data possible to inform this decision, which would need to be brought back to Cabinet. Sorry, having problems with my computer here. The pollutants the Council must monitor are nitrogen dioxide, particulates known as PM10 and PM2.5, which may be a risk to health due to their size. These are mostly traffic-related pollutants. There are also industrial processes such as Forterra brickwork in Whittlesea that may release sulfur dioxide, so the pollutant is monitored within Finland also. This pollutant is a risk from large-scale combustion process that burn fossil fuels. For Finland, the monitoring agreement is fulfilled by managing a series of 46 monitoring points, which identify the level of traffic-related pollutants, and officers also assess monitoring data made available by the Combined Authority and Finland-based industries. These businesses are permitted by the Environment Agency and are required to carry out their own monitoring in order to provide compliance with their environmental permits. The Council also has a mobile pollution sensor, which has been located in Holcroft Road, Whittlesea, and monitored for particulates and sulfur dioxide. A summary of monitoring locations. Monitoring locations can be viewed within the report. There are 46 sites along roads where the Council monitors for nitrogen dioxide. The CPCA have monitoring being carried out in 5 locations for a range of pollutants. MVV Medworth are required to carry out monitoring in 14 different locations, including Thomas Clarkson's scope. Operators at Saxon Pits site, Whittlesea, are also required to carry out monitoring as part of their environmental permits. Results. The monitoring shows air quality is good, with no noted exceedances of national standards. There are some concerns with traffic pollution at Wisdom Lane in West Beach, which is being closely monitored. But even in this case, it still doesn't exceed the national standards. Traffic-related pollution is now much improved in Broad Street in March due to the High Street project and traffic flow improvements. This has been a long-standing area of concern, which is now resolved. The monitoring at Holcroft Road showed good air quality, and this sensor will now likely be relocated to inform a new monitoring program for Whittlesea. I will conclude by going to the work plan for 2026, and that is to continue with active monitoring sites as detailed within the report, continue to respond to consultations regarding new developments, changes in road traffic flows, and growth in industry, housing, and commercial activities. A further review and assessment of air quality report is due to be completed in the summer of 2026. This will be a review of 2025. The report is sent to DEFRA for their feedback. As in previous years, DEFRA will no doubt request the Council continues to revoke the existing air quality management areas due to their compliance with national objectives. If data identifies this is the case again this year, we must develop these proposals further. If air quality management areas are revoked, the Council must then develop a full air quality management strategy for the area. The development of an air quality monitoring strategy for Whittlesea, jointly with the Environment Agency, Public Health Risk Assessment recommendations. The recommendations are in section 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mapdon. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Miss Hoy, thank you very much indeed. Any comments from anyone? Councillor Miss Hoy first.
Just a quick one. I don't necessarily need an answer today, but one thing that was mentioned at the County Council's planning meeting about Saxon Pit was regarding the need to have additional monitors, and there was some discussion about costs and that how the costs were involved. I presume that's the costs to Fenland. So it would just be useful, and again, like I say, I'm happy to have a written answer. I don't need it right now, but just to know how they are funded and how, if people do want more, they can get more. And then the second part of the question was around the communications, because I understand why we have to revoke air quality areas if they don't meet very specific criteria, and that doesn't preclude us from then reinstating them or putting in other ones. But I think when we did it in Wisbeach, I don't think we perhaps communicated it in the best way, because people thought, oh, you're removing the air quality monitoring when the incinerator's coming. And obviously we knew that wasn't the case, and it was a statutory process, but I think we could have perhaps explained it better. So I think if it happens again, we kind of now can we know for next time.
Thank you. I'll add to that if I may, at least as far as Saxon Pit is concerned. The air quality management area is based on a particular polluting source which no longer exists. So in the ordinary course of events, that should have been and should be now revoked. However, at that very same site, we now have another potential source of pollution. And this is being treated very seriously by Public Health. Public Health set up a new committee which will meet for the first time next month to look at sources of pollution, particularly but not exclusively Saxon Pit. And that will have member representation. 3 councillors will be on that. I'll be on it. Councillor Noise and Councillor Branton will be on that committee. But in addition to that, given the seriousness of some of the things which have come out over the course of the last year, thanks to Public Health starting a very significant piece of work almost 12 months ago, which took 7 months to complete, thanks to that, the Environment Agency has agreed that it's going to be moving one of its top-notch monitoring stations to near the edge of Saxon Pit to monitor in more detail than we've ever had before what is coming out of Saxon Pit. And therefore, I would be keen to see that when we do get a further report in the summer of 2026, that due attention is paid to what the Environment Agency has uncovered, or that we wait until they complete their exercise before any firm decision is made as to how we move forwards, particularly in respect of particulates. As for exceedances, there have been regular, wrong word to use, there have been frequent exceedances, especially of sulfur dioxide at Whittlesea, but paradoxically, those exceedances haven't occurred frequently enough to count as being reportable exceedances. So whilst individual days and individual hours of exceedance have taken place, it hasn't passed the threshold of needing action to be taken. So I think it's important that we do place on record, not that there have been no exceedances, but there have been no exceedances for which action can be taken. I think that distinction is an important one to make. Councillor Mafferdon, then I'll come to you, Steve.
Thank you. Just to answer Councillor Hoy's first question, these are funded by the contractors. There's no cost to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Count.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was having a look at the indices on this paper, and I was quite surprised by the levels in Broad Street March, where I quote, and this is from one of the appendices, that the third that there was an increase at Broad Street March, and considering the success of the High Street programme, that really did concern me, because I know that just experiencing it, there's a lot less traffic. And if anyone else should pick that up, I've already managed to identify the reason for that. So the measurements that were used for the narrative are the comparison to 2023. Whilst the works were ongoing, there was hardly anything going through there. So by 2024, when it was opened, there was a big uplift in traffic. But I've looked at the actual figures for that and the other ones, and when you compare them to where they were going back to 2021, all of them are very, very much lower. This was a hugely successful project with many different aims, which is why we managed to get funding from the government, from the CPCA, various different areas. And one of the key target areas was the improvement of the air quality and the reduction of congestion in the town centre. And so I was shocked when I thought there was somebody saying that maybe hadn't happened, but I've given an explanation. It's all good news for Broad Street March, and I look forward to it being completed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from anyone? No? Okay. The recommendation is set out on page 22 of the report, and it asks that we note the report, monitoring locations, plans, and proposed actions to ensure the Council's statutory obligations under the Environment Act 1995 continue to be met and actions are implemented to further improve air quality. Those in favour, please show. And that's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed, members. Agenda item 7 is the Fenland Inspire Play Areas report, which is to be found on pages 33 to 50 of your agenda pack. Councillor Mafferdon, please, can you propose the report?
Thank you, Chair. Fenland District Council, as we all know, has been allocated 1.5 million grant from the government's Pride in Place Impact Fund. Cabinet has previously decided to focus this grant funding on enhancement of open spaces facilities and play areas across the district in line with the Fenland Inspire project's aims, which also matches one of the objectives of the Pride in Place Impact Fund. Following an assessment of existing Fenland play areas, a report to Cabinet in February 2026 split the budget as follows. Towns, 250,000 budget per town, and the rural areas and villages was 500,000. Additionally, Cabinet instructed portfolio holders for the project to consult with elected members in each town and across the rural areas to ascertain what improvements members would like to see in their areas. This report summarizes members' feedback with estimated costs of members' suggestions and requirements. All costs remain an estimate until a formal procurement process is completed and tendered costs are available. And the recommendations are in Section 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mafferdon. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Mrs. Laws, thank you very much indeed. Before proceeding further, I'd like to just put forward a small amendment it will not have escaped members' notice that Whittlesea's total amount comes not to 250,000, but 285,000. This is not a sneaky attempt by the leader of the council to get extra money for Whittlesea. It's just that we hadn't had enough time to be able to examine all of the opportunities that there are and to make our recommendations as members. So the amendment I would like to put forward is that we remove the roundabout from Teal Road, which saves 15,000. We remove the roundabout from Church Street, which saves 15,000. And we reduce the country park work required by 5,000. That'll be a reduction of 35,000, bringing Whittlesea's figure down to 250,000. And I hope that members will accept that amendment to the paper. Accepted? Yes, I see broad agreement. Thank you very much indeed. Right, would any member like to speak on this? Start off with Councillor Seaton.
Another amendment, if I may, Chair, on Tits and Giles. It's listed there as safety fence with self-closed gates for £30,000. And I've spoken to Tits and Giles, and they actually are going to put a much lower fence in, which will reduce that by 15,000. So that 30,000 becomes 15,000. So I'd like to make that point. And secondly, just to ask, as I've been asked by a few parishes exactly who is going to be responsible for the implementation of all the work. They were worried that the parish councils were suddenly going to be asked to do all this, and so I just want clarification on that, if I may. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Seaton. May I first of all get the agreement of the meeting that we will accept the reduction on the Tits and Giles fence of £15,000. Are members happy to accept that as being an amendment? Councillor Mrs. Hoy.
Yeah, the question I've got is obviously that means the villages are then short. Are you recommending that Tits and Giles have an extra piece of equipment instead, which I think would be a nice idea?
Well, they're actually, Chair, it's standing at 62,000 at the moment. So that'll bring it down to under the 50,000. It's up to Cabinet, I think, and also the portfolio holder, obviously, about what should be included or excluded.
Thank you. I think the point that Councillor Ms. Hoy was making is that there's £500,000 which is allocated to the parishes as a whole, and her concern was that this may take them under the 500,000 figure. But of course, this would be covered under the delegations which are in the recommendations. So this, we will make sure that no area goes short. Are members? Is this about the 15,000 for Tits and Giles? Are members happy for the adjustment to be made on Tits and Giles fence for £15,000? Thank you. I'll put it to a vote if necessary. Not necessary. Good. Okay. Then you also asked a question about implementation costs. Councillor Mafferdon.
So, sorry, can you ask the question again?
Yes, I've been asked by the parish councillors who is going to be responsible for the implementation of the work.
Right, the works will be carried out by contractors, not parish councils or Fenminster Council, and they will be. I think back to what you asked me earlier. It will not be necessarily the same contractor for the whole district or the whole area. They will be allocated to a pool of contractors.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it may be on the same subject. Councillor Mrs. Laws.
I'll wade in if I may, Chair. Yes, I've always had a bit of a hobby horse about these preferred or preference to certain providers at the council. I don't know if I should say this publicly, but I have a feeling when many contractors and companies see council, they're guaranteed of money and bump the price up by 10 or 20%. That's my assumption. I'm not saying that's going to happen in this case. What I would like to say is that through Simon Bell, I know he's semi-retired now, we managed to put an exceptional play area into Whittlesea. Now, I know that we got additional grant funding, and we had 106 agreement money from the developer, but it's been nothing but a great success. It's not your standard play area, and obviously it didn't come in cheap, but Simon, with his colleagues, thought outside of the box. So it isn't just a piece of equipment, a safety mat. There's a lot to be said, and I don't know if the cabinet member or even other people would like to visit it. It is Snowley Park. I'd highly recommend it. It's well used by mothers, by carers. We've got several caring groups there that look after young children, and it's quite a social activity as well. So I'd like to bring that forward, if I may, Chair, for people to view. But I think importantly, we're very blessed to have this money, and it's going to make a lot of difference to a lot of areas. And I just want to know that how we go out to tender, that we're not going to go to the same contractors. I'm not looking for a cheap route of equipment. It has to be safe, obviously covered by the safety rules. But I'd like to know that we will go out to a variety of tenders. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Nafton, and would you also separately respond to the position as far as Wimbledon is concerned, where they've already got to a situation where they have identified a contractor, and what we'll be doing as far as that's concerned?
Thank you, Chair. I'm personally in favour of open tenders. On a different meeting, I did question why the council was using a particular contractor for a majority of works, not in this particular setting. So I'm quite open to that as well. So yes, we'll have to look into that.
And so far as Wimbledon is concerned, where they already have an identified contractor for their two projects.
Well, yeah, we in that situation, if they're happy to go ahead with a contractor, I'm sure in working with officers, if they are they have a proven track record, I don't see a problem with that, Chair.
Thank you very much. 1 second, please. Yes, I'm correctly reminded by the monitoring officer that we will, of course, follow the FDC procurement policy where it does kick in. Councillor Mrs. French.
Thank you, Leader. I noticed that March have got 21,000 underspend. Can I suggest there is a unknown location for a climbing rock? Can I request we have a second climbing rock, which is the cost of 17,000?
Thank you for your suggestion. Where would you want your climbing rock to be placed?
Well, we've got various. We've got Gall Road, we've got West End, we've got North Drive, we've got quite a number of places we could put it.
So you've got room for quite a few climbing rocks in March. Okay, I'm sure that again this can be dealt with under delegation powers with the portfolio holder and the officer concerned. Thank you very much. Councillor Count.
Thank you. It's a shame I didn't have the microphone on, really, isn't it? But this is a good news story. This is a rare occasion where we sit here and we don't get to be grumpy and how on earth are we going to save some money. This is a day when we get to say to the people of Funderland, you're going to get something more and you aren't going to be charged for this. And I think the whole of Fenland's going to benefit from this, which is something else that doesn't always happen. So I think it's a good news story. We want to make most out of it. I have got a couple of questions on the a March one, if I may, and one of the things was just in the narrative, and it's slightly confusing at 3.1 for me, because the primary area, Pease Hill Road open space, is the primary area, and then 3.2 there's a list of other areas, and at the end of 3.2 it says these all want some work. after the initial 2 open spaces have been done. And I'm not really sure which the 2 are because we've only got 1 listed. So is it the first one on the list or not, or have I misread the paper? So some clarification needed there. The second thing I wanted to come on to was just, I was quite surprised by the commentary on West End. First of all, I would say West End would work on the climbing wall. We're big enough. We can find space for it there. So that would be great. But it says the current play area can't be extended due to underground services, gas and water. Now, I am quite surprised because it's not bounded on 4 sides by a path. So somebody is saying that there has to be pipes on all 4 sides. And if it does, then shouldn't we have a secondary play area, really? And the reason I say this is I live very close to it, right? And it literally is heavily used. It's the main park in March. It's very, very, shall I say, overused. And whilst we might spread things further afield, there is a reliance on the central park for that. So I just wanted to ask about that. Is it literally bounded on all 4 sides? And the third point, last point I would make, is there's consideration going on about whether a football wall could be put at the Gall Road. What worries me about that is if it's in use, there are times of the day when a young person will be enjoying themselves just repeatedly kicking it against the wall. And I don't know what the booming effect in that area might be, but whilst it might benefit one group, I could see some residents maybe being a bit concerned about that. So I thought I'd raise that for officers and the portfolio holder to consider as they're making decisions on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Count. And that final point you made emphasises that the decisions we're making today are not final decisions. These are matters which will need to go out to public consultation, and we will hear back from the public consultation, and it may be items like that will cause some further amendments to be made. Councillor Mafton, you have any answers to it? You don't have any answers immediately. Will you be able to find out answers and provide them not merely to Councillor Count in writing, but also to the other members of Cabinet? Thank you very much indeed. I saw Councillor Hoy first.
Okay, so I'm glad that this is going to come back to Cabinet for further comments, because I've got a lot of things that I would like to say, and I am saying this in the spirit of kindness. But some of the comments that have been made, I find a bit interesting. So we have people questioning what's happening. I thought all members were supposed to be working in towns to discuss what they were having for their towns. So I don't understand why we're now at Cabinet with a paper that people don't get. I still don't understand the Tid St Giles thing. I don't understand where this arbitrary £50,000 per village figure came from. It's a figure that's news to me. I've literally never heard that. And if that is a new figure, then Doddington is like 3 times that. So I don't understand why Tid St Giles gets cut because of some arbitrary £50,000 figure, and then Doddington doesn't get cut. So that's also, I don't understand that. Regarding the schemes in here, so this is not me trying to kind of blow our own trumpet in with speech, but I think having a ballpark figure per area is a better way to do it. And the reason being is we've got all these places listed, and it looks like we've just thought, okay, I would like XYZ thing that we picked from a catalogue. I mean, do kids even want to play on this? We don't know. We've just kind of made these assumptions. I mean, I guess the consultation will tell us that, but you know, we've now kind of, the risk we've run is we've promised all these people that they're going to have XYZ thing that they might not then have. And I also, one other note of caution I'd make is, I think the problem we've now got, especially with the villages, we've listed all these villages that are going to get things, and we're going to have them expectations raised really high. And I have to say, I think some of them are going to be very disappointed. I mean, Morrow, play improvements, £30,000. £30,000 buys you very little. They might get like 1 swing and a rocker, and I just think it'll be like, I mean, the reason we've put Burcroft Road in this time is because we did that, you know, from our own point of view, that was our own naivety when we got funding before, and we thought, oh, 25 grand's going to get us some stuff. It got us literally a swing and a rocker, and it's actually embarrassing when you walk to that play area. I mean, Sid and I went there last week to see it. It is embarrassing, and I just think we really run the risk of people saying we haven't been ambitious enough. I know people moan anyway, to be fair, whatever you do, someone's going to moan. So yeah, I know that's a bit, I'm not trying to be negative because I think Steve's right, it is great. It's great that we've got all this money for play areas. But I'm glad that it will come back to have a revisit.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Missoy. It won't necessarily come back. It depends upon what the result is of the public consultation and a further item that I'll bring up in a few moments' time. Because we do have delegation in here for the portfolio holder and the officer concerned to be able to make necessary adjustments. If there is something really significant which is going to change, then of course that may be a different matter. But I'm not anticipating that it would have to come back. It does depend upon the results of public consultation. The first point that you raised was about the Tids and Giles fence. I need to ask then Councillor Seaton, whose ward it's in, if he'd be just kind enough to explain that again, because I think you had some uncertainty about why that was being suggested. Councillor Seaton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to clarify the position. They are not being cut by £15,000. Tids and Giles only were ever going to have a lower fence, and the figure that was put in was done by the audit that was done by FDC. Now, where that figure came from particularly, I don't know, but they're not being cut. It was always only going to be 15,000.
Thank you very much. You mentioned the expectations, Councillor Ms. Hoy, about people, and we may be raising false expectations. We've got two issues here. The first is that there is a very limited timescale by which these items need to be spent. We have to have the expenditure take place no later than the 31st of March 2027. So we do need to move with some speed. And we could do that and not raise expectations by doing all of these conversations in private and not revealing any of this to the public. But that really goes against the spirit of what this 1.5 million is meant to be, which is meant to take into account the views of the public and, for that matter, the view of the Member of Parliament as well. So whilst there is a danger that people will have expectations raised, there's also the advantage that people will know what it is which is being talked about and they can make representations accordingly. And I think that that being open to the public is really quite an important part of what it is that we're meant to do. And I see you'd like to come back, Councillor Hoy, so please do.
Yeah, it's back about Tids and Giles. I don't think I've ever talked about Tids and Giles so much in one meeting, or ever actually. But I get your point, Councillor Seaton. But that 15,000, if the fence is coming cheaper and their overall budget goes down, that 15,000 is still in the overall budget. So why can't they have an additional piece of play equipment?
None of the numbers that we see in front of us will probably be the final numbers that we end up with. So this will all be able to be taken into account in the delegations which there are to the portfolio holder and to the officer concerned. And I'm sure that that very point is one which will occur to both of those individuals, especially given that you've now hammered it in. Councillor Mrs. French first, then Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Leader. You've actually answered part of the question. My question was going to be, these are estimates, and hopefully they will come under budget and we'll have the opportunity to look again. One of my disappointments, we have a new housing estate off Wisbeach Road, Hazelback Drive, 118 affordable homes, and all they've offered is £20,000 towards, they will not put their own play equipment in, which I think is absolutely disgraceful with the amount of kids that are going to be there. So that is why the Mayor and I opted to have a good look at Pease Hill, which is very near the site. But there is £20,000 in the kitty from Sage Housing, so I'm hoping that £20,000 will be passed over and we could probably have something else.
Thank you very much indeed. And I see the officer concerned has taken copious notes of everything that is being said here today, and it will all no doubt be taken into account. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair. I did just want to jump on the Tids and Giles wagon. I have a great fondness for that particular village. Now, I know that lots of villages need additional equipment, and I think this is altogether a great plan. Councillor Camp was right. It's all good news. But I do think perhaps a little focus on Tid would not be a bad idea, because I think they are a little underserved, and I'd like to see them get a bit more investment because I think they deserve it. Thank you.
I see the officer concerned continuing to write large numbers of notes, so I dare say that that point has been made yet again in his notes and will be taken into account. Now, this 1.5 million is excellent news, of course, we do have the constraint that we've got to get it all spent by in just over 12 months' time. So there's quite a lot of work to be done to get it to that stage and to get all of that spent. But as is often the case with government, it sometimes seems, especially this government, that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And what do we find on top of this £1.5 million that we knew about? At the end of last week, government made a further announcement that they're going to give a further grant to us and to various other local authorities around the country of £270,000, which they're calling a playground fund. Now, given that we are already working on various playgrounds, it seems to me it makes sense to take that into account with what we are doing here. But the playground fund has rather different rules as attached to it. We know that the fund has to be spent by the 31st of March 28, not the 31st of March 27. We know it needs to be related to 3 projects, which we have to choose. And we also know that it needs to reflect both the levels of deprivation, that there are different levels of deprivation in the area, and also the different levels of need that there are in the area. So we do have this extra £270,000 on top of the £1.5 million. And one of the problems that we've got is that's only just been announced in the last few days. We still haven't seen the detailed guidance, as government calls it, guidance as to how the £270,000 is to be spent. But it will be useful for us to consider that in the context of what we've already been talking about for the 1.5 million, to ensure that where we do have ready-made projects which are appropriate for one fund rather than the other, that we take advantage of that. It won't mean that any area loses out, because if we do that, then that area will get the equivalent amount extra in terms of share of the 1.5 million. So no area will lose out as a result of this, but it seems to be counterintuitive to deal with the 270,000 completely separately from the way in which we're dealing with the 1.5 million, especially given that we haven't even yet gone out to public consultation on the 1.5 million. So there's still a lot of flexibility here as far as we're concerned. And again, it's actually good news that it's been identified that we should be given one of a fairly small number of local authorities around the country which will be given this additional £270,000 playground fund. But I will emphasise that although we haven't yet seen the detailed guidance, it was very clear from what was said that the relative deprivation of different areas will be a major consideration in where that £270,000 will go. And as members will be aware, that the index of multiple deprivation was updated last year, and the 4 areas of the 5 areas which are in the first decile of deprivation nationally, 4 of those are in Wisbech. So I imagine that most, if not all, of this 270,000 probably will end up going to, in fact, it will be, most of it will go to Wisbech. As I say, it's got to be 3 projects, so we'll see what the opportunities are. But I thought it was worthwhile bringing that up now, as much as anything else, to ensure that we don't duplicate it all, and that we take advantage of any opportunity that we've got from the work already done to see where we may be able to identify suitable projects for this £270,000. And the £270,000, unfortunately, isn't just going to be given to us. It's not quite as simple as that. Government is asking us to draw up an application to show how and why we would spend the £270,000. So we have to make sure that we follow the criteria that they're setting. But the one thing I don't want to do is to lose that £270,000. So one way or another, we will apply for it and we will get it. Councillor Mrs. Laws.
Whatever money that we can glean from government, if it's 3 projects and it has to be in Wisbech, I won't object to that, because obviously it's necessary. But going back to something Councillor Hoy said, or before that, I'd just like to pull Councillor Count up. Actually, we're not grumpy at this cabinet meeting. You did say grumpy. I don't think all members are grumpy. We come here with an open mind, and I think we have a good disposition and personality to follow it through. Reassurance to Councillor Hoy, when we've gone out to public consultation for play areas in Whittlesea, and I think obviously the officer will back me up here behind me, especially with Snowley Park, we had a tremendous amount of people actually engaged with that. And they came forward and suggested the age group, the type of equipment, and even looked at the safety perspective, because obviously play areas have to be quite open, so they're very visible. So if the consultation's done correctly, I'm sure you will get good responses. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Miss Hoy first, then Councillor Count.
Yeah, thanks for that. I was just going to add, I think one thing I think we need to do before the consultation, though, I don't think it would take particularly long, but I would think it would be useful to have a map of those lower super output areas, and also to identify land in those areas. I know obviously the maps are available, but obviously we don't have the maps of what FDC owned land is within those areas, because I think we need to know what's possible before we go out too much, because I think that will let us know what we can achieve. And then I think if we are consulting on these other play areas, it might be useful to have an additional kind of question of what else would you like to see, so then that can then formulate our plans going forward.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Miss Hoy. It's slightly premature, unfortunately, because we haven't yet had the government guidance about, and I know you're talking about the £270,000, we haven't yet had the government guidance about that and exactly how there needs to be the link between deprivation and the way in which the £270,000 is divided into 3 projects. But you are entirely correct. There will, it almost certainly, once we have that guidance, it will be necessary, or it will be advantageous for members of Cabinet to see just where the areas of greatest deprivation are. And the lower super output areas are areas, well, lower super output areas are areas which contain about 1,600 or so people. It can be more, it can be less. So there are large numbers of these lower super output areas in each of our towns, and they each have been ranked according to where they are in an index of deprivation. And that rank goes from number 1, which is the most deprived in the country, down to number 33,500 and odd, which is the least deprived. And in the first, conventionally, these are divided up into deciles, into tenths. And in the worst tenth of such low super output areas in the country, some approximately 3,350 or so, unfortunately, Finland has 5 of those. And I imagine that is where we will need to target our 270,000, or if not actually in those locations, because they are very small areas, then very close to those areas. So yes, you are right, the maps will be important, but let's first of all see what the government guidance is, and then we will ask that officers send us information about what the options are and what geographical constraints there are in terms of the choices to be made about the 3 projects which should come to the 270,000. Councillor Count.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and apologies to anybody that thought I grumpy other fairy tale dwarves are available, but no, I just meant that this is a great news story. I just want to pick up on what will happen with this new grant, which isn't contained in the paper at all. So we've got the old one, which we're going to vote on today. We've got the new one. I may be wrong, but this may fall under officer delegation, should we so choose. I could be wrong on that. But I would have thought that the most important thing for any responsible district council is not to duplicate, not to dig up twice, not to spend a lot of officer time trying to do the same job twice. So basically we've got similar things, similar outcomes, play equipment, although the areas may change, and I've got no problem if the areas are all in Wisbech. I believe one might be March North, but if they're all in Wisbech, whatever the terms are with it. It seems to me that the most important thing would be, if we've got to deliver one by March 2027, it would be great if we could deliver the other one by March 2027 as well. And therefore it may be necessary just to give a general steer whether Cabinet wants to really be involved in this one, or whether speed is of the essence. And for me, I think I would go for, let's get it all done by March 2027, if at all possible, and therefore just give a general steer if that's the wishes of Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Accountant. You've put into words what it is that I was implying. By utilising the work which has already been done, it may be possible for us to fast track one or more of these 3 projects. And if that is possible, And if they can be delivered also by March 2027, then all the better. The earlier things can be delivered, as long as they're the right things in the right place, the earlier they can be delivered, the better. However, the announcement was made, and as I say, it's only a partial announcement. We haven't got the details yet. The announcement was only made at the end of last week, so it hasn't been reflected at all in the report that we've got here, and is not covered by the delegations which is within this report. So that will certainly need to come back to Cabinet at some stage in the future. We'll try and make sure it comes back as soon as it possibly can, and it will come back more quickly as a result of, I believe, us looking at the potential for the 270,000 at the same time as we are looking at the potential for the 1.5 million. Councillor Mafton.
Just to quickly add, Chair, that if we haven't received the government guidelines yet on how to spend this money, what we're going to spend it on. So if we receive it on time before March 2027, hopefully we do, then we can obviously include it. So we're not doing the same job twice. Officers are not doing the same job twice. But it has to depend on what time the government releases the full details of what they want to spend it on.
Absolutely. Until we get the detailed guidance, we are speculating to some extent based on little more than a press release, and that's always a dangerous thing to do. But officers will move forwards with alacrity on this, and especially given the opportunity that there is to integrate with the work already being done for the 1.5 million, if it is going to be possible to identify one or more projects which are suitable for that, then so be it. However, the authorisation process is quite different. For the 1.5 million, we are giving responsibility to the portfolio holder and to the officer concerned under delegated powers to make adjustments and decisions. But for the 270,000, not merely do we need to identify what the three schemes are and how much they are coming to the 270,000, we then need to submit that to government for their approval before we can move forwards on it. So that much we know. There are lots of other things we may not know yet about how that 270,000 is going to work, but I will emphasise that the decision-making process for those two schemes is going to be quite different. Councillor Miss Hoy.
Yes, a couple of points. I think maybe I am a grumpy one today because I want to put a marker down. Unless we are legally obliged to charge Fenland District Council, I would not like Fenland District Council to be charging to this £273,000 any officer time or consultation costs. Because I've seen that far too often in when we get these government grants, suddenly, 60 or £70,000 of it is gone because it's paid someone's salary for a year, and then you've hired some consultants to do a consultation at £15,000, and before you know it, the 270,000 becomes 190,000 or less. So I would like that to not happen, please. And then the second point I want to make is, whilst I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, I'm obviously very pleased to get any money at Fenland. I do find it a little bit sad, really, that we're sort of celebrating this money, and it is a good thing, but at the same time, let's be honest, these areas, the reason they're in the bottom of the league tables is for so many things. People are dying younger than they're dying elsewhere in these areas. People can't afford to do things. They're not nice areas like for people to live in. I personally like living there. Luckily my area is not in the lower super output, but a lot of people, some of my county division is, and I think they're lovely areas to live, but it's not nice to have your life expectancy lower than people in other areas.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms Hoy. You're spreading out the discussion quite widely. A couple of things there. First of all, about officer time or consultants being part of the 270,000. Unless it is required, and it may be required by central government, then that is not the intention. Just as it wasn't the intention to use any of the 1.5 million for consultants or for officer time. So but thank you for the suggestion, and now you've put that in my mind, I will give it further consideration, but it wasn't our original intention to do that at all, and just at the moment it's not my intention to do it either, but at least you've raised the issue, so thank you for that. So far as the areas of deprivation are concerned, particularly in Wisbech, whilst I quoted numbers from the index of multiple deprivation, that index itself is made up of some, I believe, 7 domains, different types of deprivation. And the one type of deprivation which we did not do so badly on throughout Wisbech was the quality of living and living accommodation within the area. And it was deemed to be much better than our overall average. We fell down in other areas, in other domains, but in terms of the quality of the accommodation and of the area that we were in, that did not score so badly. So that reinforces the comment that you made, Councillor Missoy. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair. I have to come back on Councillor Hoy's comments. I have to make these comments all the time at County Council. This is the first time I've ever had to make this response at District Council. But I really hate this kind of comparing different places' life expectancy, because it's a complicated picture, and very often it's about the choices that people choose to make. And you try to force your own personal life on somebody that's controlling them. Now, it might be that some people will live a lot longer because they eat tofu or drink a lot of water or run every day, and other people might choose to smoke or vape or do something dangerous or be a boxer or all the things that can potentially damage your health as you get older. These are free choices that adults get to make, and it's not our place to tell them what to do. It's just our place to advise and guide and then let them choose. Thank you.
Very sage words from you. Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Tierney, particularly from an individual who is in the who lives in the most deprived lower super-output area in Finland, and the 834th most deprived of the 33,500 in the country as a whole. And you're entirely correct. And many of the things which are allegedly bad for us are on an individual basis not deleterious at all. Other things which are supposedly good, such as, for example, physical exercise or playing football or whatever, can lead to, unfortunately, a very early and untimely death. So you're quite correct, Councillor Tierney, to say that there is not such a clear correlation between deprivation and, for example, ill health, but there are connections. And it's important that we do recognise those connections, one great example being air quality, so that we ensure that where it is possible for us to assist individuals who wish to be assisted, or assist in areas of public good, such as air quality, that we do the appropriate thing. Let's try to get back on the subject, please, of play areas. Do you wish to speak about play areas, Councillor Missoy?
I just want to correct. So at no point did I ever say I want to control people's health choices. I just think it's sad that people die young. I mean,
Thank you very much indeed.
It's just sad.
Councillor Walwork, I'm sure I can rely on you to get back to play areas.
So technically, no, you can't. So no, you can't. And I was going to reply to the comment about freedom of choice, which I'm completely for. I was just going to sit and say, in order to have freedom of choice and make it level, you have to have the ability to make those choices. So access to healthcare, access to education, access to safer environments, all of those things we are very low on in the Fen. So I'll go, but I'm sure that's something to do with play areas if you really spin it.
Well, you missed a trick there, because you should have said also potentially access to play areas. And that brings us back to what we're meant to be talking about today. Does anyone have any further comments to make about play areas and about this report, please? No, in which case we can go to the recommendations of the report, which are set out on pages 33 and 34 of the report. And they ask, and there are 8 of them, they ask that we agree the projects for each of the towns and rural areas are set out within the report, delegate authority to the portfolio holder responsible for the Fenland Inspire Open Spaces and Play Areas project to consult with local elected members with regard to any necessary adjustments to current expected spend against the budget, and adjusts the notional budget allocations as necessary and matches these revised budgets with elected members' priorities. Instruct officers to inform the local member of parliament of what plans have been approved, pending the necessary community engagement to further shape proposals as is required by the government prospectus for the Pride in Place Impact Fund. Notes that the community feedback regarding any proposals is a requirement of the government grant and that feedback may alter proposals accordingly. Community engagement will take place throughout April based on decisions made by members in paragraph 3.1. Notes that the deadline for committing the Pride in Place Impact Fund, which is funding open space and play area improvements, is no later than 31st of March 2027. The Cabinet authorises officers in consultation with the portfolio holder responsible for the Fenland Inspire Open Spaces and Play Areas project and the portfolio holder for open spaces to deliver the improvements approved by Cabinet in paragraph 3.1. Those improvements will be subject to the MP's feedback and feedback as part of a community engagement process, ensuring compliance with MHCLG's prospectus for this grant funding. The Cabinet delegates authority to the portfolio holder for the Fenland Inspire Open Spaces and Play Area project to consult with local elected members regarding alternative projects where, from the options approved by Cabinet, permission to use a third party's land is denied, or including where MHCLG rejects a project as unsuitable for the funding, and the Cabinet authorises the monitoring officer to execute and complete all requisite legal documentation in relation to the matters above related to play area and open spaces improvements, procurement, and their delivery. Those in favour, please show. And that's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed, members, for a most interesting debate. Agenda item 8 is the draft 6-month Cabinet Forward Plan, which is to be found on pages 51 and 52 of the agenda pack. I see already there's a question or comment from Councillor Mrs. French.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, and I note for the 27th of April, hopefully the civil parking enforcement will be discussed. It was deferred from today's meeting, and I'm hoping to see something positive coming out of this.
As are we all, Councillor Mrs. French. Thank you very much indeed. Right, thank you. The forward plan is noted for information. We now move to agenda item 9, which are the urgent items, and since there are none, we can move straight on to agenda item 10. And that is the sale of 2 Broad Street March, which is to be found on pages 53 to 66 of the confidential pack. Now, members will note that it has been proposed that parts of this report are exempt from publication in accordance with paragraph 3 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, and this is because Appendix 2 contains commercially sensitive information relating to FDC and third parties. And for this reason, it's considered in the public interest that the information is maintained as exempt at this time. However, I would prefer to start off by discussing the part of the paper which is public. I know there isn't much of the paper which is in public, to be quite honest, but it gives an opportunity for something to be said before we go into private session, into exempt session. After going into exempt session, we will then come back out of exempt session to continue our debate on this subject. So first of all, I will actually introduce this. Councillor Seaton, I know it's your report, but do you want to defer your comments until the exempt session, or can you make your initial comments now?
Well, I can make my initial comments now if you wish, Chair.
But they may not contain anything which is in the exempt information, including bidders and prices and anything like that. You're still
no
happy
prices, or I mean, no. I think perhaps. Sorry. Yes. You having said that, perhaps I should leave that till later on.
Fine, I thought so. Thank you very much indeed. So I do need formally for us to agree that the confidential information or proposed confidential information should remain exempt. All in favour, please show. And that is agreed unanimously. Thank you. I'll make an introductory comment on this before we go into exempt session, and that is that this is a surprisingly successful project we have in 2 Broad Street. It's successful as we expected it would be, because a lot of work was put into it in terms of government and the way in which the government grant has been utilised successfully. According to the government's own criterion on the main measure of that, it has been very successful indeed. It's also been surprisingly, unexpectedly, and quite fortuitously successful financially for Fenland District Council, because it was not our intention at any time that Fenland District Council would also receive any sort of return, financial return, from this site or from any other part of the funding. And it just happens to have worked out that way that we will do so. So that is icing on the cake, as is the fact that we also managed to save a significant amount of money, some £250,000 to £300,000, by utilising the site for a centre for the people who are doing the work on the Broad Street itself and the neighbouring areas. And we hadn't, when we initially considered looking at 2 Broad Street, which itself was a secondary option for us, we hadn't considered that we'd be able to save some £250,000 to £300,000 by doing that. So that's also very good news. Does anyone else wish to say anything really general about this before we go into the detail? Councillor Cant.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd also like to reflect and put on record my comments that this is a hugely successful project. It was a combination of the Broad Street project and the March Area Transport Strategy delivery, one of which, the Broad Street, was chaired by Councillor French, Matt, chaired by Councillor French very, very well, and the Broad Street chaired by Councillor Seaton very, very well. I was a member of both working groups and been heavily involved throughout, and all what I want to say is, living in March as I do, when the project started, when we outlaid the plans, some people were on board, some people weren't. And those people who weren't made their feelings very, very clear to me that they weren't on board. And to a certain extent, I understand that. A drawing on a piece of paper that gets changed along the way, a consultation that maybe they didn't see notification of and say, nobody asked us because they missed what was out there, and various other reasons, the fear of how it might impact somebody individually, all came to the forefront in the early days and through the construction period. And it was not comfortable to be known, to be associated with the project, to be quite honest, at that point in time. However, I didn't hide behind a bushel, neither did any other councillor I know associated with this. We said we believe that this is good, particularly March members, this is good for the town of March. There are still people who believe this is bad, this is change, it's not exactly delivered what they wanted in life. But they are outnumbered, from my personal experience, not from a great big consultation, just from living in March, my personal experience, and people talk to me now, the vast majority have said this was a success. There are so many parts of this a success. We heard about the air quality earlier. We look at our Broad Street area and how many shops are full. We look at the way that the paved area is now being utilised for outside eating spaces, and the delivery of market store, which is quite new and quite one. But we have this one part that's left, right? We've got this one part that's left, and for some reason, some people again want to be naysayers. But when it's finished, that final part of the jigsaw, overlooking the river that we can now see, will be a great boon for March. I'm very proud to have been associated with this, and I look forward to it reaching completion. And I think that the vast majority of people in March now hold a similar view, that they're glad that we undertook this work and it's been done. I'd just like to touch on the finances before we do. Obviously, as you say...
Do be very careful.
Okay.
Nothing on in Appendix 2, please.
Okay. I'd just like to touch on the finances, if I may, and as Councillor Seaton has already... the Chair, Councillor Bowden has already said there will be a receipt for Fenton District Council, and of course I will be the first one to say actually that should be devoted to something else in March. This was intrinsically a March money project, so we'll have that conversation another day. But on the other side of the finances, the project actually expanded in scope due to the good management of the officers involved and the chairs of the two boards managing this project carefully. We had extra paving put in at Iceland down Station Road, the area outside Iceland. All of this came about because of good management of finances. We've ended up with a better project than we actually started off and envisaged and put down on paper. So I'm not going to talk about the finance of that, but I will make a bid later on, should we need money for March, to remind everybody where some of our money came from. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Count, and you can be assured that I have a long list of other projects which have resulted in money being created for the council, which has not previously been hypothecated, but which I'd be perfectly happy to get hypothecated in the interests of Whittlesey. General points, Councillor Mrs. French, without mentioning anything in Appendix 2, please.
Thank you. Yeah, just to follow on from Councillor Count, you did miss out that we have additional car parking spaces in the City Road, which came from the underspend as well. So that has helped the town as well.
Thank you. Councillor Tierney, same prohibition, please.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say how I agree with Councillor Count. One of the sad things about being a councillor, I suppose, but necessary, is that the plans that you bring forwards, there's always going to be people who don't like them. And down the line, when you see it all delivered, it's inspiring when you see that things actually do work out. Having been through March myself quite a few times, I think it's much improved. And I'd just like to say, if there is an open space, don't forget Councillor French has a climbing rock she wants to place.
I understood Councillor French had several climbing rocks she might care to place in different places within March. Right. If there are no further general comments to make, Even though the whole report isn't exempt, but given the nature of the discussion that we need to have in order to come to a conclusion, and given that we haven't even had a proposing speech or seconder yet, we will need that. I suggest that we do move to exempt session immediately. Are members in favour of moving to exempt session now?
Yeah.
That's agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Member services, would you please pause the link to YouTube? And may any members of the public who are here, if there are any, I don't think there are any left. So anyone who shouldn't be
Okay, we're back in public session, Councillor.
Yes, thank you very much, and welcome back to members of the press and public who are viewing this on YouTube. We have a proposal from Councillor Seaton to accept bid 2. Those in favour, please show. It has been seconded by Councillor Mrs. Wrench. You did? I thought we did have a seconder. Oh, then Councillor Count. Fine, thank you very much indeed. Those in favour, please show. Those against? Those abstaining? And that is agreed by 6 votes to nil with 3 abstentions. Thank you very much indeed. Members are further requested to give delegated authority to the Leader of the Council in conjunction with the portfolio holder for assets and the Section 151 officer to approve the contractual terms securing the disposal of the property and to enter into all legal documentation required. Those in favour, please show. Those against? And abstentions? That is agreed by 6 votes to nil with 3 abstentions. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, members. And this marks the end of the meeting, and I declare the meeting closed, with the next meeting of Cabinet scheduled to take place at 4 p.m. on the 27th of April 2026. Thank you very much indeed, members. Thank you to members of the public. Thank you to officers.